Have you always wondered why Asians are really good with money and they all seem to be rich? Like they drive around with their BMWs, Mercedes-Benz, they have really good jobs. Why is that? Life and so many mysteries. Now, I don't speak for all Asians, but I do have experiences from an Asian American immigrant to tell you why Asians are really good with money and what type of cultural attributes lead to financial success. But before we get started, let me take this ridiculous hat off. So for those that are new to our channel, my name is Sam Kwok, one half of the Kwok Brothers. I'm a serial entrepreneur, real estate investor, and a financial expert. And we love to talk about different financial strategies and concepts that help you make more money and keep more of it. So growing up, I would always have friends ask me, hey, why are Asians really good with money? And quite frankly, I didn't have an answer, nor do I want to make one up. And when I was young, I thought all families had the same culture and they had the same type of rules and parents emphasized and told us the same thing. But later I find out as an adult, that's not always the case. So growing up as an Asian American immigrant, here are some things that my parents and the culture has really emphasized that I think led to some of the financial success, and I see it in other Asian families as well. And when I share some of these cultural attributes and characteristics, I don't mean to generalize, but they are mostly true. Number one is that almost all Asian families are very, very, very competitive. And what I mean by that is when I was a little kid in elementary school, I remember this in 3rd grade, I remember scoring like a 92 or 93 at a test, and I went home thinking, oh my gosh, I'm gonna make my parents happy, this is awesome, 92, great. Well, come to find out that Mr. Kim down the street and his son just got a 96, and I got in big trouble. You know, I remember going home and my dad's like, why you know like Mr. Kim's son? He get 96, you only get 92. I want you to get 97. Now, some of this competitive nature can get pretty unhealthy if done the wrong way. Obviously, we don't want to fall into this comparison trap, but when done in a healthy and friendly, competitive way, it can be a good thing if you are striving to be a better version of yourself every single day. So obviously, from my perspective, the unhealthy way of doing it is comparing with other people and why you're not good enough, which is falling into the shame and inadequacy, which is not what I'm for. But what I am for is being competitive with yourself, being better than what you were yesterday, learning new things, reading, taking courses, and getting into coaching programs, whatever the case might be. I often find that with Asian culture, we're very, very competitive. And obviously, to some degree, it is unhealthy. Number two is an extreme focus on personal responsibility. And one example of that is I remember when I was in middle school or high school, when asking my mom about credit cards, one of the biggest things I remember from that conversation is her saying, Sam, make sure you pay your credit cards on time. If you don't, you're going to financial hell and you're gonna be bankrupt. Like, she made it very scary, right? Like the police will come, the bank police will come, the credit card police will come, and they will take you away and put you in jail. I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta pay all my bills on time, right? So it was like a do or die. If you don't pay your credit cards, you die, right? That's kind of the mentality and the focus that I grew up with when it comes to an example of a personal responsibility. But there was this other level of responsibility where if you have obligations or you're committed to do something, your word is your word. Meaning if you signed up to, I don't know, do like a community service project, and even if you didn't feel like doing it that day and you're like, I really don't want to do it, I just want to stay home and do nothing, you still went and did what you had to do, even though it sucked and you were like cussing right through it and you hate doing it. There was this sense of honor and responsibility to honoring obligations and commitments no matter what. So there was this heightened sense of responsibility that carries into financial responsibility. This is why you'll see a lot of Asians, they have higher credit scores and higher salary, because a lot of times that responsibility carries through not only with finances, but also job performance, business performance, and so on. Number three is huge emphasis on learning and education. Now, from my perspective, there's actually two types of education: theoretical education and practical education. But one thing that I do notice quite a bit in the Asian community is that there is an emphasis or priority or the honoring of certifications, titles, degrees, which I personally think doesn't matter as much as practical education, which is actually taking what you learn and applying it. But there is also the importance of learning how to learn. The idea of intelligence is not that you're naturally smart or you're naturally gifted. The idea of intelligence is how fast do you learn something and how well do you obtain it and how well do you retain it. So you can say because Asian communities and culture, there's more practice of learning how to learn. So when faced with something new, they quickly get it, they quickly adapt this new knowledge because they've been practicing how to learn for a very long time. So it's not necessarily about the volume or how much you know, but how quickly can you obtain something new and keep it and apply it. So a takeaway from this is that learning how to learn faster or learning the most efficient way to acquire new knowledge. It's not about how much you know, it's more so if you're faced with something new, how adaptable are you? If you are faced with a problem or a challenge, are you able to learn XYZ at a faster pace or a slower pace? And that usually dictates intelligence. And the number 4 attribute I find in Asian communities, and I'm not saying this is exclusive to the Asian community, but I do find it as more of a generality, and I find it there more. Number 4 has to do with work ethic. Several years ago, I read this book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, and I think it's in this book that he talks about this. The reason why Asian American students are quote unquote better at math is not because they're naturally smarter or have some kind of gift to count or multiply. It's because they found that on average, the Asian American students spend more time solving a problem than did with other students. I think it was like 12 seconds or 10 seconds per problem that led them to scoring higher when it comes to the test result. So the takeaway from that is that Asian students are not naturally smarter per se, but they spend more time working at a problem, struggling, and figuring it out and not giving up. The study concludes that's the main attribute as to why Asian students scored higher on math problems than with other students. And the other thing I think Gladwell talks about in that book is that historically and from an anthropological perspective, when you look at Asian farmers, rice farming, and again, no stereotype intended here, but rice farming is an year-round thing. In a warmer climate, in a warmer environment, rice farming is possible all year round. However, in other parts of the world, like say Europe or Northern Asia, it's colder, so farming is not possible during winter months. So what does that mean? Well, the book denotes that because Asian culture and the farming, culture, they work 365 days in a year and it's nonstop working without breaks. So with the combination that they spend more time solving a problem and giving it more attention, and there's longer stamina for working, it is on average why Asian Americans achieve more financially speaking or job performance speaking than maybe some other. Again, I'm not saying that this is only exclusive to the Asian community, but it is possible. It is simply characteristics and attributes that anyone can take and adopt to themselves that could translate to financial success. So the takeaway from that is if you want to get good at something, whether it's money, investment, or at a job or a certain skill, it's simple. You spend more time doing it, even if you're fumbling, even if you're making mistakes, even if you feel like you want to quit. There is a sense of discipline that you need to have to spend more time at a given field or skill or money or finances that is ultimately required for you to actually cross the threshold of success. Number 5, and again, I know this may sound like a bad stereotype, but it actually isn't, and that is frugalism. I remember growing up every day, if I leave the lights on in the bathroom or I leave the fan on, man, did I get the smacking. And that was true with food, that was true with dining out. Like I remember if I stopped eating, I was full and there was still food on my plate, my mom was like, hey, there's kids in North Korea that's starving. You need to eat this. You have no idea how hard we were to put the food on the table. So that ultimately translated to me thinking, oh my gosh, I should not waste anything. Whether that comes with electric bill, water bill. I mean, you can even ask my employees here. I get pretty cuckoo when it comes to lights being turned on and no one's in there working. I gotta turn it off. Like it's one of those things. I mean, I had the same exact office furniture for like years now, and I tend to not throw away anything that if it's still working, it's still working. Like I'm not gonna try to get something new because it just simply looks better. If it works, it works. So it's almost like this crossover of frugalism and utilitarianism where if it works, don't mess with it, but also don't waste anything, don't spend access on fancy things. And I find this to be true with almost everything. And this is why you get the culture of like bargaining, you get the culture of trying to finagle prices, which may not necessarily be a bad thing, but the mentality there is by not spending any access and saving and by not spending more than we should, we can take that money and allocate that to investments or other future purchases down the road that would truly matter. So there's an emphasis of let's spend as least as possible and take that money and invest and grow for the future of our children and the future generation and so on. So all that to say, it's not about being frugal for the sake of being cheap or frugal, but it's about, hey, there's this bigger and more important thing that I want for my children, that I want for my future legacy, that I want to enjoy my retirement years down the road. So that's why we're going to take the sacrifice now so that we can have something better in the future. So it's ultimately about delayed gratification. There's a book I think called Marshmallow Story that tells the story really well where they did an experiment with young kids, where they would take young kids and tell them, hey, we're gonna give you a marshmallow, and if you wait like 5 more minutes, we'll give you another marshmallow, but if you eat it now, you can't get more marshmallows. So they did this where they brought a group of kids, and obviously you had a small minority of kids that just kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and they got more marshmallows, and those kids that just ate it, obviously they didn't get any more. But what they found out is that later on in their adulthood, the kids that typically waited and delayed their gratification ended up being more successful when it comes to their jobs, finances, career. They had happier marriages and so on. So it's almost ingrained in the Asian culture that delayed gratification is a good thing, that instead of enjoying all the things now, wait a little bit, be disciplined, and then later on, you'll basically obtain a larger harvest, whether it's finances, marriage, whatever the case might be, down the road. And number 6 is exceptionalism. And I'm careful with the word perfectionism, but I think this is more so the strive for excellence. It's about, hey, if you can do better, if you can work harder, if you can get something done better, then do it. Like, I remember when I was young, I was doing homework or I was doing some kind of chore. My dad would always say, hey, if you're not gonna do it towards perfection, if you're not gonna work towards being excellent, then don't do it at all. So there's almost this self-pride and honor and like the self-confidence in pursuit of exceptionalism and excellence. It's like, even if there's no financial reward or any kind of monetary or outside, reward for it, there was this sense of self-reward that by pursuing something good, by pursuing something excellent, by doing it well, you feel the sense of confidence and pride in yourself that, oh my gosh, I'm contributing something to the world, that I'm clearly good at something, or just going to bed every night knowing that you gave 110% at what you were doing. And what's beautiful about that is that self-confidence, that self-pride perpetuates to even better work and better product. It's this whole idea of the Japanese word Kaizen, right? It's continual improvement of better and better and better. So what you notice is that a lot of times with these Asian companies and Asian businesses, it's not that they can make more money or they could be more competitive. They just love being better and reaching the idea of excellence and giving all you got. And I think that beautifully summarizes pretty much the last 5 points as to reaching the best version of yourself. And I think this could be applied to any culture. It's not exclusive to the Asian community culture. I think this could be adopted to just about any personal culture, whether it's in your family, whether it's in your business, whether it's your friends, to have a culture of how can I improve and be better version of me than yesterday. Right? That could come through learning new skills, learning new method. And I talked about how learning helps with learning in the future. It's connecting back to even delayed gratification. How do I master myself, my control, my impulses to not eat the marshmallow, so to speak, now so that I can have something bigger later? So this idea of let's become a better version of who I am tomorrow than today kind of encompasses everything that we talked about throughout this video. And I'm not saying that these characteristics and attributes are not exclusive to the Asian culture either. And I find them a lot. It's beautiful in other cultures as well. It's about how do we make it a dominant feature or characteristics. What I want to say is, how do we make this a dominant attribute or pursuit for all the other cultures, all other individuals and families and communities and so on? Because if all of us are pursuing to be the best version of ourselves, I believe that is rising the tide for all of our humanity and society to grow and lift all conditions of humanity so that we can ultimately have better quality of life for everybody. So those are just my perspective as an Asian American immigrant here. If you have different perspectives, we'd love to have you share them. If you're a fellow Asian, tell us your stories, because I love hearing stories because I can totally relate. Leave your thoughts and comments down below. And if you want me to share more things about Asian finances, let me know. I'd be happy to share them and we can get into some more conversations. And don't forget, check out some of the other videos in our channel right here. Click on that and we'll see you in that video.